Thank you for watching QTV News. We take a look at stories making headlines in our news. Tourism Minister Ronald Chitotela says that mining activities in the Lower Zambezi National Park will not proceed. The Albinism Foundation of Zambia has condemned the suspected ritual attack on a 7-year-old girl with albinism in Kitwe who had her hand cut off. And MMD President Nevas Mumba has struck a reconciliatory tone after the Lusaka High Court upheld his presidency of the former ruling party. And now details in our news. Minister of Tourism and Arts Ronald Chitotela says mining activities in the Lower Zambezi National Park by Kangaluwi open cast copper mine project will not proceed because the Zambia Environmental Management Agency ZEMA report has expired. Speaking during a joint media briefing, Mr. Chitotela says the ZEMA report, which was for the period of 2014 to 2017, expired and that the developer would require a fresh report if they wanted to go ahead with the project. He says at the moment, the Kalungwani open cast copper mine project is the only mining exploration.
So by the time the court was making a decision to throw out the petition, there was no report. There is no ZEMA report today. Therefore, if there is anything to do with mining in Lower Zambezi, the license holder must go back to the people and submit a new ZEMA report. And based on his engagement with the community, it may be approved, it may be rejected. And even after obtaining the ZEMA report, he will again apply to the Minister of Tourism to set up special conditions for them to begin operating in our national parks. And it will be up to the minister whether to grant or not. So, and even those who are agitating, wanting to demonstrate for or against mining in Lower Zambezi, there is no mining in Lower Zambezi as at today. I don't see it even in the next 1 year because the process is very tedious. They must go back, do environmental impact assessment, submit to the Minister of Environment and to the Minister of Water and Environmental Protection, now through ZEMA, who will look at it. If the stakeholders in Lower Zambezi and other key stakeholders will approve mining, then it will again be granted. So there is no ZEMA report because I've heard some former cabinet ministers and people even daring President, when we want him to speak, let him revoke. What is he going to revoke which is not there?
Speaking at the same briefing, Mines and Minerals Minister Richard Musuka accused former Lands Minister Harry Kalaba of facilitating the granting of the Kangaluwi mine license in the Lower Zambezi National Park without the consent of Cabinet. Mr. Musuka says the issuance of the mining license to Kangaluwi mine was done at ministerial level. And Mr. Musuka has disclosed that his ministry has cancelled over 840 mining licenses.
And I am also alive to the fact that at one point, the Honorable Minister of Land, then Honorable Kalaba, did overturn the decision by ZEMA. Now, that's not a cabinet decision. Again, it's a lack of information. Our colleagues and everybody can be swayed on a straightforward issue. The authority for the minister to overturn the ZEMA decision was anchored within the authority of the minister. And it was a legal decision by the minister. Nothing sinister. In fact, there was nothing illegal that the minister did because it was falling within his powers. And perhaps it is prudent to accept decisions that are made at that platform. Even myself or the Minister for Tourism, if you apply through our directors for permit and they have rejected, the law provides that you can make a special appeal to the minister and you make consideration. And I think that that's how that decision was framed. I want to make it abundantly clear that that was not a cabinet decision, that was a ministerial decision. And in any case, for the Ministry of Mines, the one who has the right and power to give a license, Honorable Minister, he also has the right to withdraw the license.
Chief Government spokesperson Dora Silia says government is yet to pay Eskom of South Africa the balance of 32 million United States dollars for the importation of 300 megawatts of electricity after making an initial payment of 10 million United States dollars. Ms. Silia says the Energy Minister is still engaging the Finance Minister, seeking the remaining balance to pay Eskom so that the country can start receiving power to cushion the power deficit. Speaking at the joint media briefing, Ms. Leah says the government is aware that Zambians are suffering owing to the load shedding the country is facing. The minister says the country is facing financial challenges, the reason why it has only managed to pay 10 million United States dollars for the importation of power.
We are not sleeping. We are having obviously financial challenges as a country, and that's why we've only paid as of now $10 million as the minister had promised, and was hoping that in these 2 weeks we would have had the balance of $32 million. We don't have it yet. Remember, he did say that he was hoping to get this money from ZRA, from NAPSA, and other institutions within government, because this is the money for the people of Zambia. I saw that one of the opposition leaders was asking, where's government going to get the money? We have to find it. And it means something else will suffer. But we have to find this money from ourselves so that we can get this power. And that's why government's conversation this week, especially at cabinet, was we cannot continue to enjoy a product that cost us so much to produce, but we only want to pay so much. It is not attainable. It is just not attainable that we can be producing power at 11 cents per kilowatt and we want to pay for it at 7 cents per kilowatt. It just doesn't make sense. And that's why ZESCO has ground to a halt, because there's no liquidity, because all of us have been subsidized by ZESCO, producing power at a very high price, but all of us, we want to pay 200 kwacha, 300 kwacha a month for power. It's not attainable at all.
The Albinism Foundation of Zambia has condemned the suspected ritual attack on a 7-year-old girl with albinism who had her hand chopped off in Kitwe and is admitted to Kitwe Central Hospital. Foundation Executive Director John Chiti says his organization is saddened by the increasing number of attacks on people with albinism in the country. Mr. Chiti notes that this year alone, 3 attacks on people with albinism have been recorded, with the recent one being in Eastern Province, where a man with albinism had his throat slit. He notes that the increase in the number of attacks on people with albinism is because of the belief that using their body parts for rituals can give them wealth and cure diseases. Mr. Chiti has since appealed to the Zambia Police and other relevant authorities to ensure the perpetrators of these crimes are brought to book. He has further appealed to parents with children with albinism to take extra care of their children and family members.
Because we have seen that body parts are moved even from one country to the other. For example, the case that we had in last year in Chama province, where a young girl was attacked with albinism and her right hand was chopped off, and the hand was recovered in Malawi. So we have seen that there is trafficking of body parts. Well, I just want to send this message, first of all, to perpetrators that as an organization, we'll surely follow these cases and we'll make sure that the culprits are brought to book.
MMD President Nevers Mumba has struck a reconciliatory tone following his legal victory for the party presidency, promising to be president for all MMD members. Speaking at a media briefing at the party secretariat, which until Tuesday had been under control of the Felix Mutati-led faction, Dr. Mumba says the court ruling makes him the sole president of the former ruling party. He says the party has corrected the anomaly and that it is now time to move ahead and work together. Dr. Mumba says there is no winner or loser following the court's verdict, but that it is the MMD constitution that has prevailed. He says regardless of the pain and humiliation his faction went through over the last 3 years, he will not segregate anyone. He, however, states that he will ensure that there is discipline in the leadership and affairs of the party going forward. Dr. Mumba has warned that anyone who dares fight the resolve of the court will be dealt with.
We know what the ruling says, but we are going to be very civil because we want to work with everybody. North, south, east, and west. All members of the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, wherever you are, put on your campaign clothes, put on your T-shirt. Let's work twice as hard as other political parties, because those that have gone before us, we have a job to overtake them. And in order to overtake them, put on your running shoes. I've already got my running shoes in order for us to get there. Now, somebody else said, now, Mr. President, the problem we have is that somebody called me early this morning. Dr. Mumba, now that you've got MMD, start another party because people don't like MMD because of what MMD did. I want to talk about this for the next few minutes. It is true that in 2011, the Zambian people decided to exercise their democratic power and rights and decided to remove the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy from power against a very poorly funded patriotic front. We had everything. We had vehicles. We had, talk about it.
Speaking at the same briefing, MMD Vice President Reverend Luben Sambo says there are no longer factions in the party following the court ruling declaring Dr. Mumba as the duly elected party president. He says people should accept and respect the ruling of the court and move forward.
The issue of faction leader, faction this, faction that. We have resolved that issue. The High Court of Zambia was extremely clear yesterday. There is only one president for the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy in the name of Dr. Nevas Sekwila Mumba. Let me also reiterate that all the other portfolios that you used to hear about, faction this, faction spokesperson, faction national secretary, are no longer tenable at law. The only leaders of the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy going forward from today are the leaders that are here.
Patriotic Front Secretary General Davis Mwila has ordered a stop to what he has termed as unnecessary and uncalled for debate on the party's general conference. Speaking at a media briefing, Mr. Mwila has clarified that the only body competent of calling for the general conference in line with the party constitution is the Central Committee. And Mr. Mwila says the party's Central Committee has made a resolution to enforce the Markets and Bus Stations Act of 2007. He has since warned that no political party cadre, whether from the ruling or opposition party, should engage themselves in collecting of monies in bus stations and markets, as this is the preserve of the local authorities.
Whether PFU, PND or any other political party will be allowed to collect money in the markets as well as bus stations. We've said that we'll have to enforce the Market and Bus Stations Act of 2007, that the council have the authority to collect the money, not any other person. So we came up with a committee of 3, the Minister of Local Government, the Minister of Home Affairs, and the Minister of Transport and Communication. So the process has started, the meetings have started, and we are making progress. And we expect that all those who are in the stations as well as markets will cooperate.
Energy Minister Matthew Nkua says he has no intentions of resigning following calls by National Democratic Congress President Chishimba Kambwili for him to step down over continued load shedding in the country. Mr. Nkua has told QTV News in an interview that he is doing everything possible to address the issue of load shedding. He says only President Edgar Lungu can fire him. Mr. Nkua says he will not pay attention to those calling for his resignation, but will instead concentrate on addressing challenges affecting the energy sector in the country for the common good of the Zambian people. He adds that he did not get permission from anyone to be appointed as Minister of Energy.
In terms of resigning, I'm not resigning. I didn't need permission from anybody to get into this job. I was appointed, and if the appointing authority think that I'm not worthy being here, then he will deal with me. But as far as I'm concerned, I'll do my best, and I'm doing my best. This load shedding is not the first time that it has started. And at one time, when we had the first load shedding, we had 99% hydro. Now we are saying 80% because we have got other sources of energy. We've got solar energy, we've got thermal, which is the 300 megawatt power-fired coal-fired power plant that is in Mamba. And you know, the government has moved. To build a power plant, it doesn't take 1 year, it takes 5 years. Yeah, and to do the feasibility study and so on, it goes on to 10 years. I can tell you the people that are doing geothermal in the southern province, they've been there the last 10 years. And we are looking at another 5 years before the plant can come up. So to build a power plant is not something that happens in one day. I know a lot of people are ignorant. They think that you can just go and get a power plant like from the shop, like you buy sugar from the shop and bring it, and then the next minute you've got power. It doesn't work like that.
The National Biosafety Authority, NBA, has given butcheries and bakeries using spices which may contain genetically modified organisms, GMOs, a 2-week ultimatum to clearly label their products so that consumers make informed decisions. NBA Chief Executive Officer Lacson Tonga says it is important that all products containing ingredients of genetically modified organisms are labeled. In a statement made available to Q News by NBA Communications Officer Sandra Lombe, Mr. Tonga says it is a requirement by law that all products which are made from genetically modified organisms or which contain ingredients of GMOs are clearly labeled so that consumers make an informed choice or decision when buying such food products. He says those who fail to comply will be dealt with in accordance with the provisions of the law. Mr. Tonga says consumers have the right to know what ingredients are in the products they are buying, hence labeling helps. Meanwhile, Mr. Tonga is happy with the compliance levels to biosafety standards by the laboratories dealing with GMO products. Presence of God Ministries International Senior Pastor Apostle Christopher Kunda says the ruling Patriotic Front will find it difficult to win the 2021 general election if former and serving ministers who remained in office illegally after the dissolution of Parliament fail to pay back the money. In an interview with QTV News, Apostle Kunda says the people of Zambia will not trust them with power, hence the need for them to pay back the money. He has since called on President Edgar Lungu to direct the affected ministers to pay back the money as ordered by the Constitutional Court. Apostle Kunda says the affected ministers should be truthful to themselves.
So if they are saving the people, the demanding of the money that they need to pay back, or the monies that they were paying them, the money that they were not supposed to get the money, they need to pay back because the court has passed the judgment. And also my appeal is to the president also to encourage the honorable ministers and those former ministers to pay. And also the cabinet, they need to disclose how much these people, they owe the country and how much that they are supposed to pay. It's very important to bring excellence in governance and also to be truthful in everything that they are doing as a government, because 2021 is coming. They need the votes from the same people, the Zambian people. But if we can see that ministers, they cannot pay back the money that they are supposed to pay back, it's a problem in terms of governance. We cannot trust them again, but we are saying this is the time just to follow the judgment and to do likewise.
The Zambia Congress of Trade Unions has called on Higher Education Minister Brian Mushimba to restore the disbanded boards in the TVETA institutions. ZCTU Deputy Secretary General Elaston Njovu says the situation where universities and colleges are being run without boards is a matter of serious concern. Mr. Njovu says there is need for the minister to appoint boards for these institutions to help them address the challenges they are facing. Speaking at the launch of the National Work-Based Learning Framework, Capacity Needs Assessment and National Internship Guidelines in Lusaka, Mr. Njovu has emphasized the importance of having board committees to run the affairs of universities and colleges in the country. And Mr. Njovu says addressing the issue of skills mismatch and skills gap should be seen as an attempt to bridge the gap between education and employment.
The last 20 years or so, the Zambian economy has been growing and its labor market structure changing. However, it is saddening that most of the training skills provided have not been linked to sectors where economic growth has been highest. Despite the increase in the numbers of youth with high education levels, good qualifications, good results, there's a general perception that the education system is not meeting the needs of our changing economy and our changing world. It is in imperative, therefore, that any attempt to improve skills in this country is.
Speaking at the same event, Zambia Federation of Employers Vice President Myra Ngoma has called on government to quickly appoint the board of directors for the Technical Educational, Vocational and Entrepreneurship Authority TEVETA, which has had no board for almost 2 years now. Mrs. Ngoma says the absence of a board at TEVETA is a complete departure from good governance principles.
Despite the resource interest problem, ZFP recently engaged 360 companies from its employer membership from Lusaka and the Copper Belt specifically to hear what, in their view, would be needed to enhance their involvement in skills development, as well as to hear from them on the challenges they face in offering an apprenticeship, and from them an internship. Guest of honor, constantly the issues that came out were the lack of proper legislative arrangements for the internships and apprenticeships.
And International Labour Organization Country Director George Okuto has reiterated the International Labour Organization's commitment in helping member states by promoting access to gainful employment and job creation.
The skills of how we communicate, the skill of how we provide leadership, the skills of time management, the skill of attitude towards work. These are often not taught in the classroom. And yet, the chief executives of companies are looking for people with those kind of attributes. How then can we provide people with those soft skills so that we can improve their employability? And this is where the work-based learning program comes in, to really prepare a student with those necessary skills, but also provide them with real-life experience where they can apply both their academic and also the technical skills as I've already indicated.
About 450 households, translating into 2,500 people in Samfya District's Mpanta area, are currently benefiting from the 60 kilowatts Mpanta solar mini-grid. And the Rural Electrification Authority is currently collecting about 9,000 kwacha per month from the beneficiaries for the electricity provided to them. Mpanta Solar Plant Project Coordinator Paul Nkumbula has told journalists during a field visit organized by the Rural Electrification Authority that the project, which has been in existence for 6 years, has boosted economic activity in the area. Mr. Nkumbula, however, states that the 9,000 kwacha being collected is against the projected amount of about 20,000 kwacha.
So the challenge that we have, by the time they were commissioning this project, there was no policy on prepayment facility. Things like prepaid metering system were not in place at that time. So meaning we just rely on physical collection. Okay, and that one also deterred the clients to be disciplined, because you know when you have a prepaid meter, you are already disciplined in paying. So it's somehow we can say people have the capacity to pay, but it's just a discipline. Yeah, they have even the income, but it's just a discipline. So I think with the coming of new technologies, I think now it's going to make even such project very easy to actually run, because technology will help us to generate income.
And RIA Corporate Affairs Manager Justin Mukosa says the authority is focusing on rolling out milli-solar projects in various parts of the country, especially in the advent of load shedding, which the country is experiencing.
We are also replicating the same model in a place called Lunga District. You know, Lunga was recently designated as a new district. And Lunga is a cluster of islands made up with one main island. And looking at the terrain there, the only possible electrification technology is solar. So we are looking at solar in line with what is happening with government policy, and also looking at the potential in terms of sustainability.
Meanwhile, beneficiaries of the solar mini-grid have praised RIA for taking electricity to the area, which has helped in teacher retention at Mpanta School and improved the quality of education being provided. They further state that the provision of electricity has also boosted their businesses and enhanced the provision of healthcare at the Rural Health Center.
Since the inception of this power, even urban teachers, they're eager to come here and stay with us. And when it comes to teacher preparation, because as teachers, we do write lesson plans, schemes, and weekly focus at all times, so as to be geared in the morning to execute our functions in classes.
Fintu fingi tafadhali sangu sana. Kuma exchange kwa isara tu nkalombe fi kwa malaizi. Nangu 24 telefone yako kunuka kwa hii. Thanks fi mlebuta.
Zambia's High Commissioner to South Africa, Major General Jackson Miti, says the second South African Investment Conference was a good platform to showcase Zambia's economic potential to investors. General Miti says the investment conference provided a platform for exchange of information on how to improve and enhance economies among African countries. Speaking on the sidelines of the conference, officiated by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa in Johannesburg, General Miti says Zambia is making strides in improving her economy by attracting investment in various sectors. He says various South African companies and business entities have invested in the Zambian economy. The investment conference allowed heads of missions accredited to that country to share information on existing investment opportunities in respective countries. Over 1,000 investors and business executives from across the globe attended the conference. This is contained in a statement issued by Naomi Nyawali, First Secretary Press and Public Relations at the Zambian High Commission in Pretoria, South Africa. MTN Zambia says it will continue to ensure that many people have access to smartphones, among other innovations in its pursuit to contribute to bridging the financial divide in the country. Speaking during the launch of the MTN Quarter 4 campaign dubbed Chimwela Celebration, Company Chief Executive Officer Bart Hockfer says MTN does not want to leave anyone behind in as far as digital financial inclusion is concerned. Mr. Hockfer says the celebrations are a way of appreciating its customers who have been very supportive.
So MTN Zambia is performing very well. We see a very healthy growth in the number of customers and how people use mobile money and how people use data. So that is the two growth areas. So you can expect that we will remain Zambia's #1 network. So that is just all the basics that we will do. That will be good. And the two focus areas are really digital inclusion, to get as many people on a smartphone, a 3G smartphone, so they can benefit the benefits of a digital world. They can experience social media. They can experience fast internet. That's one element. And the other element is mobile money, to really make people financially included, so that they can use it. It's very convenient and it is very affordable.
To end the news, we take a look at our top stories once again. Tourism Minister Ronald Chitotela says mining activities in the Lower Zambezi National Park will not proceed. The Albinism Foundation of Zambia has condemned the suspected ritual attack on a 7-year-old girl with albinism in Kitwe who had her hand cut off. And MMD President Nervous Mumba has struck a reconciliatory tone after the Lusaka High Court upheld his presidency of the former ruling party. On that note, we end the news. Thank you for watching.